Welcome to The Truth in This Art, your source for conversations joining arts, culture, and community. These are stories that matter, and I am your host, Rob Lee. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I'm discussing Inviting Light, a major public art project coming to Baltimore's Station North neighborhood in 2025. It is supported by a Bloomberg Philanthropies Public Art Challenge grant and curated by Baltimore's own renowned artist, Derrick Adams. We'll explore the project's inspiration and creation in Station North. Today, joining me, I have the Senior Advisor for the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, Tonya R. Miller Hall, and Derrick Adams, the curator behind Inviting Light. Welcome back to the podcast, Tonya, and welcome for the first time, Derrick.
I'm Derrick Adams. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, born and raised in Baltimore in the Park Heights area, living and working in Brooklyn since 1993.
That's Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah, Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I forgot. It's Brooklyn and Baltimore. Living in Brooklyn and New York, I've been very present in the creative community in Baltimore ever since I left. I've never disconnected from Baltimore as a city, as my base. I'm constantly in dialogue with the creative community in Baltimore, have been since I left. And I've been currently, for the past few years, engaged in strengthening the creative community in many different capacities, from nonprofit endeavors, Charm City Cultural Cultivation, with Zora's Den, the Last Resort Artist Retreat, Black Baltimore Digital Database, now working with the Mayor's Office and Bloomberg Inviting Light, which is in collaboration with the art advisor for the mayor, which is Tonya Miller here, and among many other things that we've been engaged in creatively, building the creative community and beyond in the city. And I'm happy to be here in conversation with you too. Thank you.
Yep. Hi. First of all, thank you, Rob, for inviting us. I am Tonya Miller Hall. I'm the Senior Advisor for Arts and Culture. My role, I am the cultural leader for the city of Baltimore. This is the first time in a long time, since the 90s, there's been a cultural leader sitting within the mayor's office at a cabinet level position. And so I'm just really excited that our current administration had the vision to appoint me to this position. And certainly now just working through lots of infrastructure things to build the creative economy for the city of Baltimore.
Thank you. We have illustrious guests here. I love this. So going into Inviting Light, could you, and we could start off with Derrick and go down to Tonya. Could you give us a glimpse into the core concept behind the project? And I have a few other sort of like follow-up questions to that, but I at least want to start with the core concept.
Well, from the creative side of Inviting Light, which is the mayor initiative that's part of Bloomberg's funded project, is basically we won a really major competitive competition from all the cities across the U.S. To receive this amazing award to help, develop certain areas in our communities, specifically the area surrounding the art district surrounding Charles Street, North Avenue, to really think about how to bring light into the community in a way that's not dealing with the ideas relating to surveillance or other areas that are associated with light, or the idea of bright spaces in cities like Baltimore, working class cities. Usually light is something that is brought in a way to I guess, expose certain things in the neighborhood that you may feel are being done in the dark, on the more negative side. But on the more creative, more community building side, this project was presented and established to think about integrating light as a form of welcoming community members to feel more comfortable engaging with each other in that community. And the idea that light could also be a source of of help, or light could be a source of like illumination, you know. So I was brought in as the curator for the project, which I was excited to be a part of, mainly because, you know, I always think about opportunities like this where we could extend these amazing projects to local artists in Baltimore. And out of the 5 artists who were chosen, 4 of them are Baltimore residents. I believe one of them is a Baltimore resident, born and raised. The others have been in Baltimore since graduating from art school, or at least undergrad or graduate education in Baltimore. And they consider themselves part of the community. They're engaged in other activities in the community beyond this project. And the only person is only one person within this cohort who is not from Baltimore, but they were chosen mainly because their practice is a community-based practice. Their practice is a social practice that engage with communities across the world, internationally. And so adding this 5th person was also essential to kind of broaden the conversation about where we are as Baltimoreans and where we're going on a more national, international scale, because we do also have international communities within the city. And so this was more of a way of kind of thinking about the future of the city and broadening the relationship that we have with people who are coming in, people who've been there from other parts of the world, and how Baltimore is more of a more expansive city than most people think when they think about the inhabitants, the residents in the city and where they come from. And so this was an exciting project to do because this is another reason that I come to Baltimore often, to be involved in these conversations as we plan this project that's going to start this year, very soon in the spring.
Tonya, do you have anything you would like to add in there?
No, other than, I should just echo that we won this award from Bloomberg Philanthropies. We beat out 200 other cities. So only 8 cities were given this $1 million grant to create sort of a public art practice, a public arts placemaking or such. And so just wanted to do our own bragging rights that we beat out 200 cities for this $1 million grant. Yeah.
And definitely, we're going to revisit that in a moment. But I want to comment on sort of the piece around Station North. Like, this podcast was born in Station North back in 2019, and always is one of those areas. Is sort of this creative energy that's always there, that's always present. And it's been a few years where folks are like, the foot traffic isn't there. So when I first heard about this project and it happening, and then being able to do some of the additional research and coming up with questions, I was super excited for it. From both your perspectives, and maybe it was touched on a bit, but at least when I asked the question, how do you envision like inviting light, revitalizing, and sort of bringing that extra attention to the neighborhood? It's a gem, and it's different venues that are there, but I think often it's overlooked. So sort of having inviting light there, and sort of the traffic that could come there, and sort of building back up and bringing that attention back to Station North.
Well, Derrick, what we forgot to mention, Derrick and I have known each other for a very long time, since we were teenagers. And so in our day, Station North, that North and Charles corridor was the center of the universe, right? So it was lots of nightlife. It was lots of, it was a diverse community. And so certainly targeting Station North as sort of the partner in this project was essential, because it is the center of the city. And so if we can use a public art project to create a sense of place and togetherness for the community, because we know that they're transient community members just because of the Penn Station, they're longtime residents, they're longtime establishments that's been there since the 80s and 90s that are really starting to see some revitalization. And so this light project will start to, again, create a sense of place, but also a sense of identity and spark tourism, economic development, and just really pointing towards greater investment. From a city's perspective, that's why, it's important to bring these projects to those kind of communities to really spark investment and opportunities for the longtime residents and community that's in that space.
Yeah, and what I think is so great about both of our involvement in this project is that we know what it used to be. We understand the history, and that's the unfortunate nature of the younger generation being exposed to this area now and not understanding the history of and the richness of this particular area within the Black community and beyond. This was always considered a cultural hub in Baltimore, and it was an area that most people look forward to kind of visiting during the weekend. And it was very common for people to drive up and down North Avenue only to slow down in this particular area of Baltimore to be, to see and be seen. And so I personally was excited because of my knowledge of the neighborhood as it related to the history of Baltimore. And I think this project has the ability to have people who may have basically given up on this particular area of Baltimore because of the blight that exists in certain corners of this area, to really rethink about the possibilities of social engagement to be reborn again in this neighborhood, that people will feel very comfortable, with these installations and programming around the installations to entice people to come back and think about this area of engagement, and also to put out the idea that maybe future business owners and future entrepreneurs may even consider this neighborhood as an investment area to have your shop in and have these other things that are happening. We have some of that, but I think there's an opportunity to really build this particular area in a way that it used to be, because it is a central part of the city and a very important part of the city. That, again, like Tonya was saying, people who are coming from work, it's such a big expansion that's happening with Penn Station coming up. So thinking about all these different relationships that are happening around this project is very important for us to consider. So the artists and the works that are here are not only just about light, it's about also highlighting the creative community that, for the most part, live around in this area. And they, regardless of the way other people see this neighborhood, the creative community has been the heartbeat and the bloodline for this community after everyone else has moved away in some ways. People who probably went to the suburban areas of Baltimore, the creative community are the ones who kept this neighborhood, still going, with all of the small little pubs and bars that are around there, the other little creative communities that occupy different spaces. Like, it's still thriving, but I think that this particular project will give a certain spotlight on the possibilities of what this neighborhood could be with more investment, and not just economic investment, but creative investment, and people looking at this neighborhood as an important place to occupy.
It's really well said. And yeah, being there, seeing it, and just hoping for something like this to bring attention and to really have folks look at it from another perspective or take another look at it. Again, spending a fair amount of time over there, having friends in different areas that are artists, that are own restaurants and businesses, or even doing maybe the first year of this podcast, like consistently in that area. Hey, come on down, come on to Station North. And some of the folks I'm interviewing who, were there, maybe as a DJ in that sort of time in the 80s, like, man, this used to be this. You don't know nothing about this. I'm like, I'm 40, man. I'm trying to live. Just let me live.
Yeah.
So so going back a little bit to sort of the, just the bragging part, we beat out some people. We beat out some cities. So, 200 was the number I heard. So in that level of competition and sort of the press and the attention around it, like, hey, Baltimore has like arts and culture. We should be aware of that. What does that mean for the city to at that level of competition to be one of 8 cities, but to beat out that 200?
Well, as the governor and the mayor always says, Baltimore is definitely experiencing a renaissance, right? And this is Baltimore's time, as the governor loves to say. But Baltimore has always had a robust arts and creative community. Derrick and I are examples of that. Certainly, we spent, Derrick is still in New York. I spent a large part of my adult career in New York. And that was where, in our generation, that's where kids went to thrive, right? But now in this new, millennial generation and Gen Z, I suppose, when you talk to them, they want to stay in the city. They want to help grow the city. They want to be a part of the next wave of great cultural arts leaders, right? So this really does point to that Baltimore is a city of artists and a city of great thinkers and great innovators. And so this project, it's not a surprise to us that we beat out 200 other cities. That's no surprise. I think that people sleep on Baltimore and still consider it a blue collar town. It does have blue collar in its roots, but we have some of the most important cultural institutions in the world here in Baltimore City, and we're retaining talent, with MICA and the BMA and Peabody and like all of these cultural institutions have, gold star artists and musicians and, blue chip artists. And so this no wonder that we are a city of artists and that we beat out 200 other cities in the U.S.
Yeah. I mean, the most exciting thing about being from Baltimore and existing in other spaces, the city itself is very well known. I think, on the global stage, people are aware of the creative contributions that Baltimoreans have added to the ecosystem over time, starting from, everyone from like a UB Blake or, Cab Calloway or, Billie Holiday, thinking about so many people.
Andre DeShields.
Yeah, Andre DeShields. Yeah, Andre DeShields. Exactly. So there's been many people from Baltimore who have left the city to go abroad or to go to other cities to really develop their craft, but also to receive the financial support that was always more challenging living in a blue collar city where
Sure.
art is considered more of a leisurely activity than a sustainable part of the fabric of a city, of our city. We've always had artists. We've always had creative. We have Tom Miller. We've had people who've done many great things and established certain things. But the idea of having the support, the financial support and the community support has been challenging in the city where there's so many other pressing needs,
Sure.
economic needs that are put in the forefront. But it's been tested and analyzed and statistically recorded that, the creative community is solely responsible in many cities for building the economic growth, and that's something that we in Baltimore are now considering an important way of building our city, because we've tried so many different types of things in the past with the city. And this, I think, is part of the idea when they say a renaissance. The renaissance is not really for the creative community. The renaissance is a discovery from the non-creative community, realizing that the creative community are the real leaders in developing where we should be in the future. So I think that it is a renaissance for the people who may have thought practically about certain things where art was not necessarily at the top of the list. And I think that now people are starting to realize that art is something that can reduce crime in communities, can give young people hope. They can give them skills with apprenticeships. You know, most artists who are in these communities are constantly engaging with the younger people in their community. Most people I know who have small nonprofits in Baltimore, they have a consistent group of young teenagers hanging out there or doing things with them. And so just imagine if that investment was greater in these communities with these artists who are working with these community members from a young age to adulthood. How much more we would kind of imagine the city if the leadership kind of shifted, or at least not necessarily shifted, but broke off a little piece that really pushed the creative community and acknowledged them as part of the leadership of the city. And I think that that's what we're doing right now. I think that what we really considered is like, we've tried so many things. Now we're trying this, and we're trying this in a major way. And that's the reason why I come to back to Baltimore really much more often than I even did before, to kind of just be a part of this growth that's happening in the city. And I think what's really important is the fact that some people who have left Baltimore who's been, you know, doing things outside of the city and around the world, like myself, are the best cheerleaders for the city, because we're shining light back onto the city from outside of the city, which is encouraging people to come to the city, to not necessarily live in Baltimore, but some people have moved to Baltimore who I've invited to come, but also to invest in the creative community of Baltimore, because that's what we need. We need the creative community to have an income, to have sustainability, those things that other major cities like a New York or like a LA or Miami, all the people who visit those places don't necessarily live in those places, but they spend money in those places. And that's what helps to build the economic structure of these places. And that's what I want to do. I'm not necessarily encouraging everyone to move to Baltimore to change the cultural dynamic of the city. I'm more interested in getting people to come and invest in Baltimore, in the creative community, and they can leave and go back home, but we need the money. And so for me, it's all about bringing the money into the city to support what we want to do. And, you know, like the way people come to New Orleans, everyone's not living in New Orleans. They go to New Orleans because it's fun and they like the creative community and they spend thousands of dollars in New Orleans. That's what I want for Baltimore.
That's great. And I'm going to New Orleans soon. So definitely my eyes like kind of lit up. And I just as anecdotally, when I go down there and they ask why I'm here, and I always visit for my birthday, but I wear the flag. Yeah, I'm from Baltimore. And they're like, oh, you're from Bmore. And they really kind of light up because
they love it.
You know, they know what's up. So I got a couple more questions I want to get to here, because, you know, letting the two of you cook a bit, you know, like you said, the conversations that you're continuing, it's like, all right, check that one off. That's covered. Don't want to ask that again. But the collaborative effort of just all of the parties involved, whether it be the two of you, whether it be Bloomberg, can you talk a bit about sort of how collaboration came together and to celebrate this project and celebrate the local art and to bring local artists and to bring attention to, you know, Station North?
So we okay, let me start over. So the grant is called the Mayor's Public Art Challenge. And so they're really tap mayors of all cities to really lean into this public arts challenge. And so my office, the Office of Arts and Culture, collaborated with Central Baltimore Partnership and Neighborhood Design Center to really work on the grant application. So, and then Central Baltimore Partnership oversees Station North. So obviously that made complete sense as sort of the governing body that oversees the arts district. And so that's how those three partnerships came together. Then we started naturally, I tapped Derrick to see if he would be interested in serving as curator for the project. At that point, he had not identified the 5 artists, which will be revealed on Friday at our launch event at the Parkway in Station North. But he really was instrumental in sort of tapping into the creative artistic community to really identify who should be a part of this project. And so each of the partners, Central Baltimore Partnership and Neighborhood Design Center, has different, we just have a different scope of work in terms of collaboration, but most of it's in the weeds kind of thing. And Derrick really is the architect. And then also I should mention that Jose Rivera, who is curating some of the community engagement components, has also been a key partner in this collaboration.
So since it's kind of there, you kind of queued it up a little bit. We're coming up on Friday, so I want to do like the sort of no spoilers version of this. So Derrick, if you will, could you touch on the curatorial, the sort of maybe that process and picking the 5 artists and like who sort of what went into that? Again, no spoilers, obviously, but what went into that?
Well, we're gonna have a big press event on Friday, the 7th at the Parkway. And so that's going to be the big announcement of the artist. But for me, the artist who, creating this project, and although this budget may seem very large in numbers, was a project that really helped to support the creatives who have been chosen to create this project, but also it's also supporting other city organizations, because we have to work with engineers, local engineers. We have to work with BG&E. We have to work with architects. So it's this award has really helped us to support the ecosystem of the city. And so not only is it a project that is supporting the creative community, but it's also, again, creating the working community in Baltimore. And so with the artists that were chosen, they were not necessarily artists who have worked with electricity before. That was not a criteria necessarily. It was definitely a plus for those who have some experience, but it was also, as a curator, I was looking more about the ability to transform this idea of light into an object that could be part of a conversation that will extend to a social engagement experience for people who inhabit this area and people who would want to come visit this area. So the artists who were chosen were really thinking about light in many different iterations, not just about the mechanical application of light as it is plugged into the ground and a switch is turned on. They were thinking metaphorically about light, spiritually about light, and things that, although the ending product would be an object that has a mechanism that turns on, the mechanism was only a vehicle to enhance some of the conceptual framework for each of the artists who were chosen to engage with the community in a certain way. So light is embedded in the sculptural framework of these artists. So it's everything from things that are on buildings, across buildings, in front of buildings, on top of buildings, things that people will be able to see, engage with, take pictures with, have programming around that invite the community to come into. So it's really more of art being used as like a lighthouse in some ways, as a beacon, just acknowledging that there is someone out there and we are trying to draw them in. And we're trying to draw them into a welcoming space, similar to a lighthouse would do on a foggy night. So we're thinking about light in a way that is not just about brightening up the neighborhood. We're thinking about how to do that.
That's great. It's I'm thinking of so many things and not even doing the pun thing in my head. Like I was going to say, that's illuminating, but it is really, but it really is.
But it is,
it's spotlighting so much. And there are, I want to talk a little bit in this last piece, if we will, about the kickoff and sort of what folks can look forward to, on Friday, February 7th. Like, I see that it's, some really robust programming, and just to the degree in which you will, share just a little bit about what folks can expect, and just coming on down to Station North to check out Inviting Lights kickoff.
The announcement is going to be the centerpiece of the event, announcing the artists, announcing their work, and showcasing their work. There will be, a presentation. We have invited some elected officials to attend. There will be music, there will be nosh, there will be drinks, but really creating a very, engaging opportunity. And this will be the opportunity for the community at large. We did a broad invitation. So the community at large has been invited, the Station North community, I should say, have been invited to see what will take place in their neighborhood. And while we often think of this space as a commercial corridor, it is also a neighborhood of local residents. And so we want to make sure that they are engaged and that they are comfortable with what we're installing. And then the arts community, the artists, again, elected officials, some really cool music, hopefully a short presentation. And then folks will get to meet and sort of engage, talk with the artists, talk with Derrick, myself, for a bit of, conversation.
Exactly, for questions. So as well, there will be questions, and we are prepared for those, to answer those questions. Because there's a lot of, just interest in understanding what this award means and how does it affect the community, which I think a lot of community residents are interested to know, because again, this is an award that seems and sounds very large, but there is a breakdown of these resources to make this happen. And this particular award was only is only allocated for this project.
Right.
So it's not like this award can be used for something else that is a need in the city. This was a award that was specifically created for public art. So although there are other things in Baltimore that could use some of this money, we can't give it to them because it's not part of the structure of agreement with this project. So there are going to be questions about like, oh, it's $1 million and maybe we could give it to this. No, we can't. Even if we wanted to, we can't. This award was designed and allocated for this particular reason. And the community aspect of it is something that we, within this group, have decided to take on as an added element of this grant. Because this grant was just to build these sculptures, these structures.
Sure.
But we have another added community engagement that Jose Ruiz, who is a professor at MICA, but also a curator of social engagement, has been brought on with us to really think about how to use this opportunity to grow the community and help them to understand the significance and the importance of having art in the community. And this is something where we had to apply for an additional grant to facilitate this thing, because a lot of the people, not just artists, but people who are, in the food industry, the dance industry, the creatives in general, will also be added to our programming through this additional grant, that we could also spread some of the love to other creatives and other people in the city to be a part of this Bloomberg Philanthropy Inviting Light project. So we are working really hard to really imagine the benefits of this, not only as a creative project, but as a social project.
And I think that's a very important point, because often, particularly working within government, folks will often point to, why are we spending money on public art when we can fix the holes, potholes, or collect trash? And those things are very important as well. But I think that Derrick raises a great point, that this particular grant was allocated specifically for public art. And the value of public art is the transformation of space and community. And so sometimes people don't understand the value of that, but it does help to drive economic and social improvement.
It's really, really great points. And it's thank you for that added texture there, because I think you're right. You know, a lot of folks don't get it. They see the number is the splashy thing, and then sort of, well, you could do this. You ever think about this building? It's just like, no, this is for this, and it can extend much, much wider than that, and can be much more impactful than just maybe fixing this thing or what have you.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, it's really, really important.
And I often, I'm sorry, just one last point. I often like to say that artists are workers as well, cultural workers, and they need to get paid.
Yeah.
You know, this space where artists can do something for the experience or because it's a cool thing. I don't know where folks think, where folks have gotten this understanding that artists just like to do things because they're making art anyway. They might as well just do it for free. And artists, I'm like, that's a workforce. But, you know, that is a workforce that needs to get paid. And so we need to pay the artists with what they're worth, as Derrick said, and also supporting the other businesses that are baked into this project, caterers, production people, lighting people, graphic designers, videographers. All of those people are also a part of this, part of this sort of workforce.
Yes, it's a lot of moving parts that go into it, and I think it's a really, really good point, and more attention around that now, especially 2025, obviously, and exposure is great, but also it doesn't buy you eggs. It doesn't buy you eggs right now. You know, eggs are really expensive. A lot of exposure for eggs.
Yes, but also you have to realize, like, these opportunities are so few in Baltimore for artists. Some of these artists, this is the biggest opportunity for them at this particular time in the city. So whatever the financial structure for this project might be able to sustain them for a particular amount of time in Baltimore before another opportunity comes for them to be able to live off of or to exist from. So even though these projects seem very large and they are great and amazing, but I want a bunch of these projects to happen in Baltimore, not just in this particular area. I want different areas in Baltimore to benefit from this and different artists in Baltimore to benefit from this. And so, I'm hoping there'll be opportunities for really developing and creating more public art on Pennsylvania Avenue in the historical Black district. I hope there will be opportunity to really think about, Fells Point and other areas of Baltimore at some point, where art could just be a tourist draw for people to come to Baltimore just to see the art around town, similar to the way that Philly Mural program exists and how that has driven the certain support in the community and tourism in Philly do their art program. So I think that we are no different in a lot of ways than Philadelphia or even New Orleans when it comes to understanding how important the creative community is and how impactful they are for, visitors and viewership. And I think that this will be the beginning of many other opportunities for us to get funding, to receive funding, to be able to spread this around sometimes. And I think that this is going to extend into and I would love to say, into our experience with Artscape this year. And I think that, Artscape is something that I'm very excited about and excited to be a part of. And I know that the momentum from this is just going to extend beyond to what we're doing on Artscape, to what we're going to be doing with AFRAM, what we're going to be doing with all these different creative engagements in the city. And I think that the wind has picked up, and I think it's just going to take off, and I'm excited about it.
It's exciting stuff. Momentum, motion. It's going to be a big 2025 and beyond. So, I'm going to get ready to close out here and, just invite any sort of closing remarks and then I'll wrap up. So for both of you, any closing remarks here and we can close out.
I think we covered quite a bit. I don't have any additional remarks to make.
Okay. And Derrick, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I'm just excited for the future of the city. Again, like I said, I grew up in Baltimore. I still have a house there. When I bought a house in Baltimore, I stay there when I'm in town. I use my property for, engagements similar to this to kind of draw attention to the value of the city. I'm really proud of Mayor Scott right now with everything that he's been doing to support not only this endeavor, but just the youth culture in Baltimore. I'm very impressed by, when I open up my phone, I look at Instagram and I see him engage with the community in a way that no other mayor has really done in the past history of Baltimore. And I'm looking forward to his role expanding throughout the city, and really, and I'm looking forward to seeing, his involvement in this project and other projects that we have in the pipeline.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Tonya R. Miller Hall and Derrick Adams for coming on to the podcast to share a bit of insight on inviting light. And for Tonya, for Derrick, I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.